My name is Philipp Hoffmann and I welcome you, and I'm super excited to share with you my master thesis. This is super relevant today because knowledge workers are often interrupted by emails and instant messages, and this might even be more the case now with this COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of them working at home. So FocusSession now supports them to keep their focus on their task. So I would like to share an example. This is actually me working on a task and implementing a specific feature while I received an interrupting message from a colleague. So when I received this message, I knew that when I would respond to it, I would not only lose time on my current task, but also there's an additional cost generated by the associated context switch. The context switch, that is the cognitive load to process switching from one topic to another. So at the same time, I knew that my colleague expects a fast response. So I asked myself, what should I do now? I could just continue to work on my task because of the high costs, not only the time taken to respond and research the email, but also to associate the context switch, getting back into the previous mindset. But at the same time, I knew that my friend was needing an answer and I want to help him, so I feel obligated to respond. So this is the dilemma that communication interruptions actually pose to knowledge workers. On the cost of interruptions, there actually have already been done research, Jonathan Spira, showing that there are huge monetary costs generated because of interruptions. Different researchers showed that, as I mentioned with the context switch, if you receive an interruption, it can take you between 15 to 25 minutes to recover. This is additionally to the time of the interruption itself. So a 5-minute phone call can very well add to 20 minutes of interruption time. Duncan Brumby also showed that interruptions increase the likelihood of errors being made, and Gloria Mark observed that interruptions generated higher stress for the workers. So in this thesis, we differentiate between two interruption types, the external interruptions coming from outside like an email, and the self-initiated interruptions like checking a social media site. Brumby actually stated that half of all interruptions are actually self-initiated. So there have been different approaches to minimize those. Gloria Mark researched email batching, where you answer or receive all the emails all at once, and it actually showed that the people who did this actually rated their productivity higher. Another approach was Flowlight, where they used visual lights to indicate the non-intrusive engagement times to coworkers. So coworkers were actually more aware of creating an interruption, and therefore it decreased interruptions overall. Here we need some physical components to install those lights, which might be a negative point here. To minimize self-initiated interruptions, there are, for example, time management methods like Pomodoro technique by Francesco Cirillo, where you break a workday into 25-minute chunks of work where you focus and then take a break. The problem here is that predefined fixed time periods might not always work with every task well. So like online meetings, they might go longer than expected. So if you set a 30-minute timer for a 30-minute meeting and then it gets over, that's not so ideal. Another approach were website blockers, where Gloria Mark researched the effect of blocking those social media sites, and it showed to increase perceived productivity of the workers, but at the same time, half of them responded in having increased stress because they felt less in control because those sites were blocked. They cannot go and visit them. So those were the approaches that already have been tried and have been researched. And based on those approaches, we actually identify a set of concepts which I will show and concerning with their implementation that we can use to develop a prototype. Then we use this prototype in a preliminary evaluation to see if it works, and then this led to some insights that I will share with you. So concerning those concepts, I'm going to talk about the concepts and their implementation together. So to prevent those self-initiated interruptions, based on the Pomodoro technique, we also use specific time periods where the worker works, but we also want to prevent multitasking. Therefore, we want the worker to commit to work on a single task during this time period. We also want the worker not to be restricted to 25 minutes, so not be restricted to a predefined time period, as this can cause problems and not work with every task. And we also want the worker to have full control over the usage of those sessions. So what we implemented, we called a focus session. So this time period where the user really focuses on working on a specific task, this can be run in two modes. So we have the closed focus session that runs for a predefined time frame as shown here, but we also have the open focus session where the user basically says, I'll start now, and then it runs until the user says that he finished the task or decides to stop the session. So we know that interruptions cause problems, so we want to minimize interruptions like email notifications or system update notifications or basically all notifications who cause an interruption. So therefore we suppressed all the notifications on a Windows operating system level. Because concerning application usage, we don't want to be restrictive like other approaches like website blockers have been, because we saw that they have negative effects. So we wanted focus session to be more supportive and less restrictive. So actually supporting the user in self-controlling himself. So we opted for just increasing awareness of the potentially distracting nature of an application and not blocking this application. So the user having full control and hopefully also feeling fully in control, not generating stress. So we implemented a window flagger. If the user switches into an application, we test this application if it is contained in a specific list of potentially distracting applications, which the user actually can customize in the settings. If it is contained, then we actually show a warning, hey, this program might be potentially distracting. And then the user can actually say if this application belongs to the task he's currently working on or not. If it does, we actually whitelist this application for the remainder of the whole session that the user is currently in. If it is not, the user can still use this application, but it will be flagged again the next time the user opens this application. Behind the next concept is actually the idea that behind every message sent or received, there is an expectation. So the sender of a message expecting an answer within the next 15 minutes. And Gloria Mark actually also made this statement. She said, the social norm that surrounds email use is primarily what causes it to be a burden. The informants commonly expressed that there is a norm or expectation that the email recipient will respond to an email quickly. So we want to react to this expectation by making it explicit, but without needing user interaction, because that would interrupt the user again in his current state of flow. So we implemented an automatic reply message for email and for instant messaging, just as a concept of proof that it can be successfully used with both services. So here in this Slack example, if we get mentioned as a user in a message, our Slack bot will actually reply and, like the Flowlight approach, actually say or respond with the current user's non-availableness. So the sender can actually manage his expectations or plan accordingly. Like here in this email, if we run a closed session, we can actually also provide the remaining time. So the sender of the message knows when to earliest expect a response and can plan accordingly and manage his expectations and maybe work on a different task in the meantime. Then we have this concept called attention guidance, because there's something called a fear of missing out. So we might see the behavior that a user, when all notifications are suppressed, after a session ends, opens the communication applications to check, did I receive an email or did I receive a message there? And this would take time and focus away again from the next task. And so we actually implemented a summary where you, with the integrated email and instant messages, it actually shows you if you missed any messages during a session and where and how many. So we guide the user's attention to actually which applications need to be checked to respond to a message, because Duncan Bramby also showed that interruptions delivered during natural break times are less disruptive. So we actually are using the natural break here to actually help and support the user in what needs attention. So what we did here is all those previous approaches that I already showed and also showed their negative aspects. We integrated all of them into one to handle both external interruptions and self-initiated interruptions, but instead have no physical system component that needs to be bought or set up or installed. We also don't want them to be restricted, because not like online meetings might not work with a predefined time because they might go longer. And we also did not want the user feel more stressed because of not being in control. So the whole concept of focus session is to support the user, not to restrict the user. So actually all those negative parts should be taken out now. So we then developed and programmed this prototype, and I will not show the code, but just simply demonstrate this application real quick. Its main functionality. So through the context menu, you can start actually a focus session where all notifications are now suppressed, and then you can actually go into the productive application and work on the task that you previously set out to do. Now, if you switch into an application that's contained within our list, the window flagger will show up, make you aware of the potentially distracting nature of this application, and you can then actually say, yes, this belongs to this task I'm working on, so this will be whitelisted now for the remaining session. After you're finished with your task, you can actually stop the currently running focus session through the context menu, and then the summary will show up. It will show us how long we focused in the session, how many messages we received and where or missed during the session, if there were any automatic replies, and some statistics of how long we were focusing. Keep in mind, all these settings can be adjusted, so we can, for example, deactivate the automatic reply if we want to. Now if we go into Slack as part of the attention guidance, we know here were messages missed. We see there was a message missed, and the other message was actually our Slack bot responding to this person and saying, hey, you might need to wait a little bit to get a response. So we can actually use this natural break in between sessions to respond to this request that we have received, and then later on we can afterwards we can take a break or just continue straight away with another focus session, because we know there is not any other message that needs attention or that we missed. Good, so this was just a short demonstration, and we used actually this prototype in the preliminary evaluation then. What was the purpose of this? We basically wanted to know if the program not only works on my machine, but if it runs on other participant system, and if it can be used in their everyday work life, or if something is missing. Also if we get some insights concerning the research question we stated, and if we can also get some feedback that might give us ideas on how to improve. So we found 3 participants with which I had a meeting where there was an introduction and I showed them how to use the tool, and then they were asked to use the tool for 3 days. Then at the end I had an interview with them, which I then transcribed and open coded to find some interesting insights that I will share with you. Just as a quick note, with only 3 participants, that's a small size and only gives us insights into how well Focus Session runs. We would still need a study based on this theory and work to actually evaluate the usefulness of each of these concepts. So how well does Focus Session run? All 3 participants used Focus Session for their work tasks for 3, 6 or 5 days respectively, and participant 1 even used it being at the customer's place, so it also works during physical interactions with clients, and participant 3 actually stated it worked really well. Concerning our research question, we see conflicting statements if it improved their focus. Participant 3 really said it really helped me focus better. Participant 1 said it didn't, by just clicking a button, he didn't suddenly feel more focused. This is something we observed, that Gloria Mark observed in her work already. She observed that people who are easily distracted actually benefited more from blocking applications. So this can be the same case here. Participant 3 actually mentioned before that he gets easily distracted, so this is why participant 3 might have benefited more. Focus Session also seems to positively affect not only focus but focus duration. Participant 1 recounted the story where there was 10 minutes before lunch break, and because of Focus Session he used this remaining 10 minutes still productively. So Focus Session has a positive influence there too. Focus Session also increased context switch awareness by showing this flags, as stated by multiple participants, that they started being more aware of using such applications, and they actually said, well, it helped me when I wanted it to. This is in the design of Focus Session, right? We want it to be supportive, not restrictive, so it only helps if I want it to help. And when we look at the different data, we actually see, for example, in participant 1's case, that in over 70%, when the window flagger popped up and the application was not task relevant, within 5 seconds there was a switch to another application, which was not in the list. Then what did they give for feedback? Participant 1 mentioned that it would be nice to have an option to say that an application was relevant only for the next 10 minutes and then be flagged again. It would also be nice to have a learning algorithm that observes application usage, and then, for example, if you use an application a lot and always say it is task relevant, that it suggests automatically taking it out of the list. And then we had participant 2 who said it would be nice to have automatic breaks during such a session. This could come from the different usage, because we had in mind, when doing Focus Session or programming, had in mind the participant running small sessions like 25 minutes and then having natural breaks. This participant used it for very long hours, because this participant said he needed some time to get into the task with his mindset, so short sessions would not be worth it. So there were no natural breaks occurring, so it makes sense to request automated breaks as an input, which we surely can. So what are some other points that we have seen from observing the data ourselves? We have seen that with just 3 participants there was very different behaviors. So participant 1 heavily focused on communication applications, participant 2 used very long session times, and participant 3 never had the window flagger appearing, just having the session describing the session as being the most useful feature, participant 1 more having the window flagger predominant as a useful feature. So we could use this actually to have different profiles for the settings when installing the application. Like you could say I'm a communicator, so FocusSession will pay attention to the usage of communication applications, and for easier setup have like a list of commonly used applications that you can whitelist right from the beginning. Like I always use this application for work, so do not flag it. We could have the researcher profile where the focus is more on focusing on something for a long time, and because of those long times have those options, but also have those automatic breaks and enabled per default. And then we could have an independent profile that actually does not rely on communication during that time, but likes to have short sessions and maybe an extensive list of potentially distracting applications to not get distracted, and maybe include some labels to the tasks, which is another aspect that we have seen. We have seen the open session actually being forgotten a lot compared to closed session, because the participants said that the closed session gave them a time goal to achieve. Like it had this goal, that the open session did not have this goal, still was useful, but not as useful because it had no goal. And participant 3 even said that the summary was really motivating because I could see I achieved something. So we could actually extend on this notion and actually include more goal and achievement based types into focus session. Like, for example, labeling each session with a goal to achieve, or like having even a planner where sessions would automatically start after breaks with a specific goal in mind. So to just summarize or recap, in this thesis we identified a set of concepts where we integrated all those different approaches to combat both types of interruptions, and taking the good parts and having this concept and implement them in a prototype which still runs and works well. You can go and use it. Then we used it in a preliminary evaluation where we found out that it seems that focus session is very helpful. It runs very well. It helps for some participants to increase the focus. It seems to positively affect focus duration and awareness of the nature of applications, and might even encourage you to switch into a productive application. So those are all the positive aspects of focus session. And then we ourselves, from just looking at the data, came up with two additional concepts that might be important for focus session. So that's my master thesis. It was super interesting. I hope that others can maybe build upon these concepts too. And yeah, thank you for watching this video.